What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and before we get to the game, just wanted to say I was right. I was right. I told you so. Sounds better. I told you so. Willian was the worst piece of business we could have possibly done. Say what you will about how old he was, his age, how much he was asking for, the length of the contract he was asking for. Say all that you will. 3 assists on his debut for Arsenal makes it pretty clear and obvious to me. VAR check, there was a mistake made. We shouldn't have sold him. Well, here's the thing. We shouldn't have let him go for free to Arsenal. Really, we should. If we're going to let him go to any team, it should not be either of our rivals, Arsenal or Tottenham. You don't let him go to Arsenal because, again, like I was saying, Arsenal's on the rise. Arteta's doing well as a manager. You don't let him go to Arsenal and make them a bit more consistent. And you don't let him go to Tottenham to rejoin Mourinho because you know Mourinho's looking for something like that to bolster his squad. So, why? Hello. Dumb decision. I called it. As soon as all this talk was like, oh, are they going to re-sign him? I'm like, we better. Because if we don't, there's already enough talk. We know he's going to stay in London. We know he's going to go to another London club. We can't let that happen. Even if he's not really worth it to us, it's worth it to us to keep him away from our rivals. Because now, guess what? We got another team to compete with. Before, it was Liverpool, City, and possibly Man U. Now Arsenal's in the mix too. Because he's gonna give them that bit of consistency that they still lacked, even with Arteta as a manager. You know, he did bring them a little bit more style and flair. He did bring them a bit more energy that they've been lacking. But with Willian now, they've got more consistency. Because that's the thing. As much as people want to complain about Willian and say, he doesn't do enough, he's not really that good, he is a consistent performer that works his butt off, and Arsenal needed that, and we gave it to them. This isn't Cech, who's past his prime, as a keeper, and it's just, he's a decent keeper, but a keeper doesn't change that much. He's not David Luiz, who's just riddled with mistakes, even though he is a good player sometimes. He's not one of those players. He is a player that will consistently perform, and it doesn't matter where he goes, he's going to be one of the best players on the team. So, yep, big mistake. And speaking of big transfer mistakes, now let's get to our game today. Lamptey was the best player on the field. Pretty much. I mean, he wasn't like the greatest. It's not like he had a perfect, flawless game. But he was one of the best players on the field. Why did we let him go again? And again, this is going back to transfers. We did well in the transfer market. We still have a chance to do even better if we can go find a keeper. But when we let players go, that's where I start to get concerned. Because it's not like we're letting players like Barkley and Loftus-Cheek go. We're letting players like Willian and Lamptey go. And look at what they're doing at these other clubs. Meanwhile, you've got Loftus-Cheek, who I think gave away nearly every single pass that he made, and then Barkley, who I can't think of one positive thing he did in the match today. So why are they still there, but Willian is gone, and Lamptey is gone, and they're tearing it up at their current clubs? So that's something that I really think needs to be looked at, because we have a tendency to do that. And I get the whole, like, you need to have a certain amount of English players on the team. Trust me, I get that. I understand that that's one of the things that they want to try to do is keep English players there because we're an English club. I understand the concept. But at some point, you got to look at Barkley and Loftus-Cheek and go, no, that's not good enough. Like, if anything, keep Willian and Lamptey, sell Barkley and Loftus-Cheek, and go get Declan Rice. Because then he'll bring at least quality to the club. But just watching Lamptey today, all I could think, and watching, especially the first half. I know James kind of stepped it up second half, but watching the difference between Lamptey and James in the first half, I'm just sitting here thinking, we couldn't give Lamptey first-team football? That was the reason he wanted to leave. We couldn't give that to him? Really? So I don't know what's going on in the outgoing transfer side of our business, but we need to take a look at those people. Because clearly the incoming is doing okay this season, but the outgoing, making some dumb decisions. So anyway, with all that being said, though, let's go talk about Lampard real quick, because I do have to question his decisions in the second half. Because what did he say at halftime? First half was not good. It was not a good start. And I get there's going to be some rust. I get there's going to be a little bit of a learning period as these players adjust to playing together. But there was a lack of energy. There's a lack of work ethic out there. And so what does he do? Nothing. Pretty much started off the same. And then, we give up the goal. Thankfully, James belts one in to pull it back. But then we nearly give up a second. And then, thankfully, we got a little lucky on the third. But this could have been a very different game if Brighton had taken advantage of their chances and, a couple of mistakes hadn't been made at the back for them. Because that's really what it was, is Brighton made two mistakes led to 2 goals. You got the foul, the penalty in the first half, which was brought about by a giveaway. And then you've also got the defender that just kind of stuck a leg out and deflected it past the keeper for the third. Without those 2 chances, it's a 1-1 game. And then on top of that, if Dunk puts away his header that he miscued, or if Mapai, I don't know how to say his name, but the striker who headed it off his shoulder in the first half, if he gets that on target, it could have been a very different game because we didn't do our job. We didn't put them under pressure. We didn't defend well enough. We were not a good team today. But Brighton just didn't take advantage of it. That's the only reason we won. And I just have to question, why didn't Frank change things at halftime? Why didn't he make us look a better team at halftime? Havertz is not a wing player. We brought him in to being an attacking mid, to be a midfielder. And I get the fact, you're missing Ziyech, you're missing Pulisic. Totally understand. Those are your 2 wingers that you're probably going to be relying on a lot. But you've still got Hudson-Odoi. Your first substitution should be, let's get Hudson-Odoi on for Loftus-Cheek and move Havertz inside. Because Loftus-Cheek was going to be the first sub. He was terrible today. But the problem is, your first sub is you bring Barkley on for Loftus-Cheek. And he's had a few good games. But watching him today, if Loftus-Cheek or Barkley take the pitch next week, either as a sub or as a starter, I'm going to lose a little bit of confidence in Lampard. I'm going to lose a little bit of confidence to think he knows what he's doing. Because watching the 2 of them today was like essentially watching, I don't even know how to describe it. I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but I just can't. Because I've never seen professional players play as poorly as they did. I cannot even think of a player that has had just so little energy, so little effort, so little talent as they did today. It was pathetic to watch. I'm just sitting there thinking, watching, yep, this is our midfield today. And anytime the ball got cleared, it was to Loftus-Cheek or it was to Barkley when he came on. And you wondered why Brighton was taking it to us constantly. Because they couldn't keep hold of the ball. They couldn't make a clear-cut pass. They wouldn't put any effort in to win it back. God, there was the one where Loftus-Cheek, within the first minute of the second half, gives the ball away off a poor touch, goes to win it back, 2 challenges, and then James steps in, and he's just like, oh, he's got it. And then James gets beat, and he just sort of goes, oh well. Just like, you're the one that lost the ball. You're the one that created this chance. Do something. So I just don't understand how Frank can look at this and go, you know what? I know we brought Havertz in as an attacking mid, but I'm going to keep putting Loftus-Cheek there. I think he's better than Havertz in that position. No. You move Havertz inside, let him be the attacking mid, move Loftus-Cheek outside so he's not on the ball as much, and then we probably have a more consistent game today. So I really got to question Frank there. What was he thinking with that decision? What was he thinking in putting Loftus-Cheek inside and Havertz outside? Because in my opinion, that switch, if he had done that sooner, if he had made that switch at all, I feel like would have helped us, at least a little bit. I'm not saying it would have turned the game completely in our favor and we would have just dominated the game, because I still think Brighton had more energy than we did, but at least we would have gotten on the ball a bit more. But as it stood, Havertz hardly touched the ball because he was just staying out wide, and Loftus-Cheek gave the ball away I don't know, 20 times, I want to estimate, because he's just not good. And then Barkley did the same thing when he came on. I don't understand that decision at all from Frank. So we'll see what happens against Liverpool, but I really hope that he looks at the tapes of this one and says, you know what? They had their chance. They're both players that we're not going to need this season. They're both players that are not going to really do much for us, so I just can't find a place in the team for them. And really, you shouldn't. You shouldn't reward play like that. And I get there's an argument to be made about not wanting to kill confidence. I get that. But this is not a case of you don't want to kill their confidence. This is a case of you need to put your best team out there. And those two do not work. For the team, for themselves, they don't work. They're just players that just go out on the field and just run around. I wouldn't even say run, they jog. They hardly ever actually sprint. So I question Frank's decisions on that. So we'll see what he does as far as his lineup next week. But as far as individuals are concerned, Kepa again proved why we need to go get a new goalkeeper. Made one good save, I think, and then the rest of the saves he had to make were fairly easy. And then the goal he gave up was just, again, he's not good enough. So still seeing some reports coming out about the Mendy keeper, but still nothing actually done. So we'll see what happens. I have heard that apparently he's pretty tall for a keeper. So hopefully that'll help us on corners, because there was the one Kepa was just like, oh, I got it. Oh, I missed. Oh, thank goodness I missed. It's a goal kick. It's awful. And defense, our defense was, I don't know, it was not good, but it wasn't awful either. Alonso was just kind of there. He didn't really do much poor. I mean, he did get beat a couple times, which is not good for a fullback. But again, he's not a fullback, so it's kind of like he did well for what I expect from Alonso. I don't expect him to do well defensively, but on the ball he did okay. He moved the ball around pretty well. He lacks a bit of pace as well, which really hurt, because Lamptey has that pace to beat him on defensively and on the attack. So I just felt like he did as much as he could, but he wasn't really helped out either. James obviously had the rocket and also put in the corner, but I just wasn't really that impressed with him today. Defensively, I felt like he was caught inside a lot. There were a lot of balls going long, and I'm thinking he's probably just used to having like Willian there to defend for him too. So there were a lot of times that Havertz didn't really track back, because that's not his game, and so James steps in to help pressure, and the ball goes over, and then there's a player that's unmarked over there. But even if he's used to having somebody there to defend, you still should be aware. You should be looking, and then you see he's not marked, get somebody on him. But he just wasn't really doing much of that. And on top of that, I just felt like a lot of his crosses today were just nothing. He didn't really have an idea of what he wanted to do. I think a lot of it was just hit it and hope. And a lot of crosses just went to nobody. A couple of them were well delivered, but nobody was in the box. And then there were a couple that just were not delivered well at all, and then nobody was in the box either. So I expect more out of him on his delivery, because that's something he is very good at, and I know he is. So I was really kind of upset today that he didn't do more with it. I felt like a lot of it was just aimless. And then the two in the center did okay. Zuma, I thought, had a pretty solid game overall, but both of them just, I don't know, they lack the ability to, I guess, organize themselves. And again, hopefully that's what Thiago Silva is going to bring with his experience. But there's too many times where you've got two defenders on one guy, and the one guy is right here. I get that's kind of a funny image, but he's right in between the two defenders. Neither of them are really picking him up. Cross comes in, header. And thankfully, again, he missed it and it hit his shoulder. But that happens too many times. The chance in the beginning of the second half, the one that James, got beat, and then Loftus-Cheek didn't go track him, cross comes in, and Christensen is here looking at the ball as it goes right behind him, and Connolly just gets right there. If he thought he had more time, he probably would have just taken a touch and put it in, but thankfully he rushed himself and bounced it off his thigh and wide. I'm just like, Christensen, how many times do you have to lose track of your man before you finally go, maybe I should track people more. Maybe I should watch the forward and actually track his run instead of ball watch and let the guys run in behind me. Because it happens, especially for Christensen, way too many times. And that's my one biggest problem with him. Like, he's not a player that the average fan who doesn't understand defense and how, like, all of the technical stuff, to the average fan, he just looks okay. He doesn't look good, he doesn't look bad, he's just there. He does a decent enough job, he makes some good challenges. But to the trained eye, to somebody who is coached and who knows, especially, I'm a defender, I know how defenders should how defenders should play. And like that's why I don't really like Van Dijk, because he's not really a trained defender. He's not a defender that tracks runs and that covers players and helps out his team. He's a very athletic defender that runs down the ball a lot. He won't do anything, and then all of a sudden when he has to, he can do it because he's just that athletic. And so he gets all this praise. And I'm just like, he's not as good as everybody else makes him out to be, because he's athletic enough to cover up for his mistakes or cover up for his teammates' mistakes. Christensen is very similar, except he doesn't have that athletic ability to make up for when he loses track of a player, or when he doesn't track a run, or when he gets caught stepping out. He doesn't have the ability to work back and make up for that mistake. So it often leads to more chances. And I just get frustrated watching him, because all I can think is, how many times does that have to happen for you? How many times do you have to let the defender run in behind you or run in front of you before you finally go, let's make a change? It's the same thing for Kepa. How many times do you have to get beat by not moving your feet before you finally go, hey, let's make a change? I do have to question the coaching staff a little bit. Because this is stuff I've been saying since last season. For Kepa, it's stuff I was saying when he first came in 2 seasons ago. So why is changes not being made? Why are these players still having these same gaps? The defense, same problems I had last season, all throughout last season, not just at the end after the shutdown. All throughout the season, we had similar problems, where it's just a lack of organization. There's a lack of direction in what we're doing to defend. Players aren't sure when to step. Players aren't sure who they're marking and who they're tracking. It's just all of this stuff going on. Nobody's talking to each other, it seems like. And I'm just like, why? Why is that not changed? Why has nothing changed for us? Like, it's very frustrating. And again, I hope that's why we brought in Thiago Silva. I'm hoping Thiago Silva can be that player that comes in and he just goes, you know what? I got this. I'll organize. I'll get you guys to where we need to be. Because really, we need a leader back there. We don't have a leader right now. We have players who just defend for themselves, and then the other defender doesn't know what to do, doesn't know who to track, and we get lost. And we get picked apart so easily. So anyways, that's my rant there. The 2 midfielders, both of them, honestly, Jorginho was not that great. Conte was just average. And especially for Conte, I'm disappointed with that, because, he is a world-class player, and there's been a lot of talk of, does he want to leave? Is he going to leave? All this stuff. And I'm just sitting here going, no, we shouldn't let him leave, because he's still a world-class player. But then today, it's like, again, it seems like he's out of position. It seems like he's not being utilized where we know he is at his best, which is breaking apart the play in front of the defense. And I don't know if it's just a part of making it a 2 midfielder system is what's causing this, but I don't know. I just feel like you can't let him keep drifting forward, because that's not his game. And especially when you watch Jorginho get beat for pace every time, Jorginho should not be the one stepping, it should be Conte. So why is it that way? Why is it set up to where Conte's not the one stepping, Jorginho is? Why is it set up to where Conte's the one making the runs forward and Jorginho is not? Jorginho's dropped back. So I don't know if that's a coaching thing, I don't know if that's a player thing, but in my opinion, if it's a coaching decision, then that's another mistake that was made today, because Conte definitely did not look in his element. He looked very out of place. He looked very much not the player we normally expect him to be. And then Jorginho was just, typical Jorginho again, which is very disappointing, because, again, last season I thought he had stepped up before the lockdown, and then all of a sudden when he come back, he's the player that I saw under Sarri. So I don't know what's going on with him, but definitely not what I want out of either of them. Um, and then the three attacking mids. Mount didn't really seem the same type of player that I expect him to be either. He's normally a buzz of energy, just running around, putting players under pressure, moving the ball quickly. Just didn't. He seemed to lack energy today. He seemed to lack. I don't know if it was fitness. I don't know if it was just pace. I don't know what it was, but he just wasn't the same type of player I expect him to be. I already talked about Loftus-Cheek, worst player on the pitch today before Barkley came on, and then Havertz was very disappointing. I will give him a bit of a pass because one, it is his first days here at Chelsea. Like he just joined, I think, a few days ago maybe. On top of that, I don't think wing is his position, and that's pretty much where he was expected to be. Was more out wide. I expect him to be playing in the center, so hopefully when he's playing there, he looks a bit better. But yeah, he just seemed to be a little bit kind of slow at times, and there were a couple moments where it felt like he didn't really get stuck in on a challenge. He was just kind of, challenge came in, and it felt like he sort of pulled out a little bit. So I don't know. I hope he can step it up a little bit more, and again, I hope he gets played in his natural position going forward. But I'm going to give him a pass for today. I'm going to say early days, still figuring it out. Let's hope he can continue to grow. Because, again, how many times have we bought these players that have been so much money and then they just don't work out? So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it hasn't happened again. But based on our history, not too surprised if it doesn't work out. And then Timo Werner, I think, was the best player on the pitch today, which is a shame because we didn't use him enough. All the hard work he put in, though, did not go unseen, in my opinion. Like, so many times he's dropping back, looking for the ball. He wanted to get on the ball, and he just worked his butt off. He's making runs to cause trouble for the defense. He's making runs to open up space for other people. When he did get on the ball, he's trying to open up space with his touches. I mean, he really wanted to be a part of the program, which is great to see. And honestly, what I would do going forward into the Liverpool match is use him as one of your wingers. If Pulisic is available, use him as the other one. So have Werner and Pulisic with Havertz in behind, Giroud or Abraham up top, whoever's been performing better in training. But personally, I think Giroud should be your first choice, but we'll see how it goes. But I think that should be your front four. Because we know Werner can play all over the pitch, and with his pace, he can put a lot of pressure on those wings too. So I just really think he's a player that I don't think we need to upseat Giroud just yet, because I still think Giroud brings a lot that I don't think Werner can bring. But if we have them both on the pitch, I think that will be a lot more, not upsetting. What's the word I'm looking for? A lot more difficult to deal with for the defense. So I'd really like to see that going forward, but we'll see. We'll see. I personally think he would have been a better option to put out wide than Havertz or Mount today, but what do I know, right? It's not like I said we shouldn't sell Willian, and now he's showing why we shouldn't have sold him. As far as the subs, I already talked about Barkley. Hudson-Odoi didn't really have much time to do anything, but when he came on, it's not like he did anything bad. I just want to see more from him. Again, he's a player that he's going to have to fight for his position, and I just don't think he really did. And I don't think he has really since he's come back from his injury. I don't think he's done enough to solidify a place, which is, it is sad because he's a player that, again, looked like he was going to have a lot of potential, but now he's just another decent player. He's got a bit of pace on him. He can dribble pretty well, but he's not doing enough to really cement a place in the team and prove why Lampard should choose him again. And then Azpilicueta came on because Jorginho went down with something, I don't know what it was, and so moved James inside because of that. But yeah, overall, good to get the 3 points and the win, but there's a lot more we got to work on. There's a lot more that we've got to improve, and a lot of it comes down to decision making from the coaching staff and from the players. You got to make better decisions. Lampard, you got to make better player decisions. You got to make better decisions on who you put on the pitch. If Loftus-Cheek and Barkley continue to do what they're doing and you continue to pick them, you're encouraging bad habits. Because, again, one thing to shoot down confidence, another thing to say, hey, if you don't improve, I can't put you out there. You got to be the mean guy sometimes. Because it's always nice to be the boss that everybody likes. It's always nice to be the boss that's like, yeah, I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. But if you continue to let them make bad decisions and don't do anything about it, they're going to continue to make those bad decisions. So you got to put your foot down and say, look, you're not good enough. Get off. I've got better options. I've got players I can put on the pitch instead of you. Get off. And then player-wise, I mean, we just got to have... These players have got to figure things out for themselves too. Because they're adults. They're professional players. As much as I can talk about the coaches and what are they doing in training and what is Frank doing picking players, as much as I can talk about all that, they are professional players, which means they should be able to figure this stuff out for themselves too. They should be able to watch the tapes and say, all right, this is what's going on. Like I said, for Kepa, he's got to be able to figure out what's going on and what he's got to improve. Christensen's got to figure out what he can improve on. James has got to figure out what he can improve on defensively. Jorginho can easily figure out what he's got to improve on. So at some point, too, you got to stop blaming the coaches and say, well, the players just aren't doing enough in training. They aren't actually doing what they need to do to get better in training. So it's got to be a team effort, which I know is a very cliched thing to say, but it's very true. So it sucks that we got to face Liverpool, but it's also a good thing because maybe a little bit weak right now. The 4-3 against Leeds is not a great way to start the season for them either. So we'll see what happens next Sunday, but I'm really hoping that there's some changes made. Not just personnel changes, not just attitude changes, but I want to see a better system being played. That's something my dad did point out to me too, and I'll finish it off with this. The system, not really sure what it is. Like, we know it's a 4-2-3-1, but what style are we playing? Are we playing high press? Are we playing counterattack? Are we playing possession? Didn't really seem to be anything in particular. It seemed to just be you're just playing. Like sometimes we'd press, but it wasn't hard press, but then occasionally it was a hard press, and then sometimes we were sitting a bit deeper, but then we weren't really stepping out to put any pressure on. Like, I don't know exactly what the style was, so we need to nail down something, and we need to get some more consistency, because if we keep playing like that, I mean, we're not always going to get a team like Brighton that's going to be nice and miss their chances. So, but with that being said, though, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this first game? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews. I'll see you guys at the next one. Peace out.